Hey everyone, welcome back to our panel sessions. I hope you all had a chance to do some yoga with Emma, get loose, get that blood flowing. It'll keep you awake. We have a really exciting panel coming up. Most of you figured out the Q&A function on the right-hand side of your screen. So again, you'll be able to use that to submit questions to our panelists for this panel, The Power of Regional Innovation Hubs to Usher in a Clean Energy Future. With that, I'll turn things over to the Director of Research Programs at Zpryme, Erin Autin, to start the panel. Erin, go ahead.
Thanks, Erin, and thanks everyone out there for joining us for this panel. Very excited to talk to all of our panelists today. And if you were on our last panel, you heard, I think all the speakers touch on innovation and how important it has been and will continue to be for both the solar and storage industries, over the past decade and into the future. So in this panel, we're really going to dive into fostering innovation communities. So please join me in welcoming our panelists. We've got Debbie Brodt-Giles, the Data Science and Innovation Group Manager at NREL, Andi Littlejohn, the Director of the EPIcenter Energy Incubator and Accelerator, Richard Amato, Director of Strategic and Global Initiatives at Autin Technology Incubator, and Brandon Cosinteno, the Executive Director of CleanTX. Thank you everyone for joining us today. So Debbie, I'd like to start with you. I know you've seen all kinds of innovative ideas and solutions while running NREL's American-Made Solar Prize Challenge. So can you just give us a quick overview of the challenge?
Sure, yes, and thank you for having me. Sure, so I'm at NREL, the National Renewable Energy Lab, and we are managing these prize challenges for the Department of Energy. It's under the umbrella name of the American-Made Challenges, and there are a lot of challenges under that umbrella. So there have been about 15 challenges in all. There's about 11 active challenges, and there's 5 challenges right now that are open for participation. One of those is called the Solar Prize, and it's our round 4 version of the Solar Prize. And the basic idea of these prize challenges is to really accelerate innovation with small entrepreneurs, medium-sized entrepreneurs, and even large-scale companies. So the government does a lot of work normally with grants and other funding opportunities, but more recently they've been really excited about prizes, because what it does is it allows us to give out money a little bit more quickly so we can accelerate innovation at a little faster pace than normal. And we award prizes based on the work that's already done. So we have these wonderful teams out there competing in all these different prizes, and they are actively working. They're building prototypes. They're working on doing some pretty amazing things and growing businesses very quickly. And once they achieve certain milestones, they can have a chance to win prize money. And the Solar Prize, for example, gives away $3 million in prize money. And these teams come and compete, and they are supported really with a network of connectors. So we've also, alongside all these prize competitors, we've built a network of wonderful connectors and incubators and accelerators who are supporting our teams. And of course, Zpryme, you know this because you're one of them, you're a power connector. But we really are relying on those connectors and those facilities to help our teams accelerate innovation and really accelerate their prototypes much more quickly than they could without this prize in place.
Yeah, it's a really great opportunity for people who are innovating in the industry. And I did put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to check out the American-Made challenges.
Thanks.
So Richard, you're at ATI, which is out of the University of Texas and has been around for more than 30 years now. Before, Austin was really known as a tech hub or any sort of really hub of anything, I think. So what is some of the groundwork that's gone into establishing both Austin and really Central Texas as a region as a clean energy ecosystem?
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Great question. I think one of the things that helped launch it was back in 2001 when ATI decided to move into a specific vertical entry within the incubator to focus on clean energy. And in 2001, we launched the Clean Energy Incubator when, as you said, ATI had primarily been more focused on IT and tech related due to the Tech Hub of Austin. The interesting thing is that one of the impetuses behind launching the Clean Energy Incubator was Debbie's organization, NREL. NREL, as well as Brandon's organization, CleanTX, the TRIA, Texas Renewable Energy Industry Association, part of CleanTX, and NREL and UT Austin ETI got together to do a feasibility study in creating a renewable/clean tech incubator. And Debbie, I don't know if you remember Marty Murphy, who was the manager of enterprise development. He was, critical to launching that. And when we did, I was actually hired in the first time to found the Clean Energy Incubator. And when we did that, we also created an kind of a activity group within the community focused on developing more interest within the community as a whole, called the ACE Initiative, the Austin Clean Energy Initiative. And a lot of that early groundwork, I think, has led to really what we in Austin and Central Texas overall has kind of created a burgeoning clean tech industry. And I mean, I think that's emphatically recognized by the recent announcement last week of Tesla building their next factory just outside of Austin.
Yeah, this is the perfect discussion to be having this week with that news just being announced. So Andi, over to you. Zpryme has done a lot of work over the past couple of years down in San Antonio, where you're located, with the city, the utility, and with your organization, EPIcenter. And I think one of the things that makes it so fun to work down there is that there's this real spirit of collaboration, not just between organizations, but also between the two regions. So how does that spirit of collaboration and really, strengthening collaboration, how does that drive innovation?
Thanks, Erin. Yeah, that's a really great question. So, I think there's a strong tie between these regional innovation hubs and innovation, particularly in the energy sector. And so, first I'd like to just start out by saying that, a hub doesn't exist if it's just one organization or one entity, right? The definition of kind of a hub and what we think of as a hub is all these different players coming together and really being this very active community. And so, and there's a lot of really positive outcomes from having a regional innovation hub. So, organizations like EPIcenter and ATI and all the other organizations here on the call today, we're not having to reinvent the wheel, right? We're not having to try and learn things that maybe aren't really in our wheelhouse, but rather we can do what we're good at and then partner with others who do things that kind of complement what we do. And so, as you mentioned, in San Antonio, we have a growing startup ecosystem, and luckily all of the players there are extremely collaborative. So it's been very great for us to kind of convene the group of the different entrepreneur serving organizations to kind of come together and talk about different collaborative opportunities and really help support one another and just raise the tide. And the same is true between San Antonio, Austin, and beyond that throughout Texas and even throughout North America. You'll see that there's a lot of innovation, particularly in the energy space. And so one particular example that I thought of kind of sharing today that I think really speaks to the power of collaboration and its impact on innovation is one of the startups that EPIcenter works with called Terra Solar. And so this startup is based out of San Antonio, but they actually came up with their concept at a 3-day startup event that was hosted by ATI. And while she was at the 3-day startup event, while the founder was there, she actually connected with somebody from Zpryme, and so became familiar with Zpryme and started getting some support from you all. And then she kind of continued to flesh out her concept with one of our startup launch partners that's here in San Antonio, who then referred her to us. We started working with her to really develop her business case, and that actually led her to apply to the AmericanMade Solar Challenge, which Debbie is representing. And on that application, she was able to list both EPIcenter and Zpryme as her connectors. And really all of this just helped her to advance her concept and develop her innovation. You know, we're still working with her on it and having a great time helping her really strengthen her business and get her product to commercialization. And, you know, it's cases like this where you can see that when you collaborate and create these innovation hubs, everyone wins at all levels, especially the innovators who come out on the other side with the stronger concept and a stronger business, and they ultimately help to advance innovation in the energy sector. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I think that's the perfect example of, you know, what we're talking about today. So Brandon, at CleanTech, you guys are, you know, really an industry alliance made up of, you know, several organizations. So when these organizations get together, how can they start to affect, you know, policy change and then also hold leaders accountable?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're definitely trying to take a more regional approach than what CleanTech has in the past. And we just got done going through the merger with TRIA. And one of the things that we've been doing is trying to leverage those partnerships with the other organizations across the state and the region. So Jason at Zpryme and us have had conversations about how we can work better together, and EPIcenter and some of those other organizations that are working in the same space, so that we can really continue to drive a lot of these initiatives and policies forward. One thing that we just did 2 or 3 weeks ago is we held a webinar with all 4 major cities in Texas: Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, and Austin. We showcased their climate action plan, but not just the plans on paper, but we really kind of dug into how they're going to make those plans real life, what they're doing to execute those, and trying to make sure that they're not just documents that are collecting dust. So that's actually something we're going to expand on and do an even larger series later on this fall, because there's a lot of interest in that. And we're probably going to include some other cities, including Lubbock, in that as well. So that's definitely something that we've been working on. Along with that, one of our key initiatives is trying to reach that 50% renewable energy integration in ERCOT by 2030. And I think keeping that in the forefront, and not just CleanTech, but partner organizations as they talk about renewables, as we work with ERCOT and some of those power providers, I think that that's definitely something that we've been trying to hit hard. And then obviously we're keeping our partnerships strong with local and regional leaders, chambers of commerce. We're looking at doing some things on policy and with policy and related to the election sometime in October. So that's definitely the approach that we've been taking. But I think the biggest thing is there's just some great organizations across the state of Texas. We're very fortunate between ATI and Pecan Street and Zpryme and EPIcenter. So we're really wanting to make sure that we're all kind of working together to spearhead these initiatives. That way it's not just one organization doing one thing, when we obviously can do things better when we're all working together.
We had a really good question come in from the audience. Said, would love to hear more about how your organizations invest in innovation training, assuming you don't have the skills you need in-house. For example, product strategy, user experience, agile, etc. So Richard, I'll start with you. Is that something you can talk about?
Well, probably the most relevant piece may be that we have a program called TextVMS, which is our Texas Venture Mentor Service. I actually just got off a new mentor training for that, in that we are constantly pulling in and working and training new mentors to be able to support the companies that we work with, both within ATI, but also within the greater community. So that's one of the ways, and I'm happy to let Debbie, Brandon, or Andi answer as well.
Yeah, Debbie, you want to go next?
Sure. So that's really the whole point of having this wonderful network that we've built. We call it the AmericanMade Network, with organizations like Zpryme, like EPIcenter, like a host of others. We have about 100 different folks out there that like signed up ready to help our teams be successful. And that's everything from prototyping help with either building that prototype or testing the prototype, scientific help or training. Our national labs are involved in that network. So we want to start connecting some of our researchers to the researchers in the national lab system, which is traditionally kind of hard to do without a program like this. Also, we're trying to connect people with venture capital experts or legal experts or business plan writing experts, so that if they don't have that expertise in their portfolio, they can get access to it through this network. So that's really the whole reason why we've built that, and we're exploring ways to utilize that wonderful network in a lot of different ways. One other element to our program is the idea of vouchers. So we don't just give out cash prizes to the winners. We also give out the opportunity to utilize a voucher at a national lab or a private facility. So that is another way that we're trying to connect our innovators with the experts that are out there that can help.
Andi or Brandon?
Yeah, I can certainly go next. So EPIcenter has a number of different resources that we provide to our entrepreneurs to help them advance their concept and their business case. And there's a few different layers. So one is we do license a couple of different proven curricula that we utilize across some of our different programs. We also provide one-on-one coaching support with our trained and certified EPIcenter coaches. And then we also have a very strong network of mentors and subject matter experts. And actually, a couple of our mentors and subject matter experts are shared between ATI and EPIcenter. And so there's been some additional collaboration there. And so really those resources help our startups kind of more on the business case side of their solutions. When it comes to more of the technical support, we do have access to technical subject matter experts. And then we have a network of fabrication and prototyping resources that we can connect our startups to as well once they reach the point of needing prototyping or testing support. And so those are some of the services that we offer, and I'm happy to chat more and go more in detail. If anybody has additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, I don't think I have much to add. I think they covered most of that for us from what we do. So, yeah.
Okay. Great. So Debbie, I think obviously right now is a challenging time. So how can we continue to support innovators in a time like this when all the social, economic things that are with everything happening?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, as I said, we have all these active prize challenges going on. We had teams that were actively competing. Of course, when COVID hit, we were worried about how it was going to affect them because they're actively competing. They're trying to build that prototype. What happens if they can't get into a prototyping facility? What happens if they can't get the materials they need to build their prototype? Of course, some of our teams have had some difficulty with trying to secure materials or resources and things like that. But in general, they have been wonderful. They've really persevered through this challenging time, and they've taken advantage of that work that's out there. And so, maybe they couldn't get a certain part or piece or material from a certain vendor, but they were resourceful and they pivoted and they were able to do something different. I'll also mention that some of our teams had to take a break from building their solar invention, and some of them started building PPE and masks and things like that to help their community. So it's just been a really wonderful ride, actually, to see what these teams are achieving in such a short time period, even during the pandemic. They're really being very resourceful, and except for the way we have 4 rounds of our solar prize going on right now, and we have winners being announced what feels like almost every day, but it's not. It's every couple months. And each time that we are announcing some of our new winners, it's been just really refreshing to see that they are being so resourceful. And so I think the biggest thing to help them now is just to kind of continue that, to keep the efforts going, the resources available as best we can to help them. That, you know, hopefully most of our businesses and the prototyping facilities and the testing facilities will remain open, even if the timeline is a little bit slower. Most of the organizations that are part of our network are still open and available to help our teams, even remotely.
Yep, Richard, how has ATI been affected by campus closure? How are the people that you're working with, how have they been dealing with that?
Well, we fortunately haven't skipped too much of a beat. I mean, we've all become webinar and Zoom experts, as has everybody, it seems. But we've been able to pretty much continue everything we do on a virtual basis. And, you know, Andy's probably experienced this as well. One of the things we've seen over the years with financial downturns like we're experiencing now through COVID, you know, same thing in the financial collapse in 2008, 2009 is, you know, this is when people get very creative, either because they're out of work and need to find something to do, or they have plenty of time to do. So we've seen a big uptick in applications to the incubator and quality applications. We still see just as much interest from all of the support resources work and being able to support. Probably the biggest impact we've seen on companies is challenge in fundraising, because investors right now still have money to invest, but what you see them doing is more holding on to that funds for their current portfolio of companies who may have longer runways now and may need more cash to make it through these times. So there's less new investing, more of the funds are going to already, the companies already in their portfolio. So that's probably the biggest negative impact we've seen from the company standpoint, but the ingenuity and the drive is out there and happening, and the technology advancements through webinars is allowing everybody to connect. As you know, it'll never be as the same as it is in person, but it's getting, you know, at least solving the problem and allowing people to connect, just like this conference right here.
Andy, I saw you nodding along. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree with everything that both Richard and Debbie have mentioned. I will just add to that that I do think that this is a time where we at least have had some increasing support to our startups through coaching and mentoring, because our entrepreneurs are, you know, they are creative problem solvers, but sometimes they need to have a kind of a discussion to kind of talk through the challenges that they're facing in order to really end up at a solution and kind of find the solution that works best with them. So so I completely, like I said, completely echo what Richard and Debbie have said, but wanted to mention that. And then one further thing that I'll just throw out there is that, you know, as you know, EPIcenter itself launched its Incubator and Accelerator program as a virtual program. And so, you know, we already had, you know, our curriculum and our mentoring, we already kind of had a lot of the infrastructure there to help support those. But transitioning our events to a virtual platform and finding platforms that allow for kind of organic networking, that has been a challenge. And I know that that's been something that our startups, you know, do, and I'm sure all startups do miss, is going to conferences and, you know, like this one, and being able to just organically network and meet people. And so luckily we found a platform that we really like to roll out with our events to hopefully help kind of supplement that. But you know, we're all doing our best and trying to make the best of this situation. So
hopefully next summer we'll be back in person for SSF 2021. All right, so my last question for the Central Texas group is, what's the clean energy story that you want to tell as a Central Texan? What's the Central Texas clean energy story that we want to tell? And Brandon, I'll start with you.
So I think one of the things I love about Texas, because I'm not a Texas resident, is when you're talking to people outside the state, they don't know how progressive we are when it comes to clean energy, clean technology, and renewables. Like, they have no idea. So I think with Tesla just landing here in Austin, I think that's a huge win for the state. I think it puts us on the map even more, but just communicating our story and our message that we might be a traditional energy state, but we're moving in the right direction. I think that's probably one of the things I'm most passionate about.
Richard? Oh, I think you might be muted.
Sorry about that. What I was saying is I cannot hear Brandon's feed, so I apologize if I repeat anything you said, Brandon. But I think it's all about collaboration. Every single person on this screen right now, we're working together. I mean, Andi and I are both incubators in the Incubate Energy Network, which used to be managed by NREL and is now managed by EPRI, the Electric Power Research Institute. However, we are members with IN2 for NREL to help support them as they look for companies. I'm on the board of CleanTX with Brandon. So we're all working together. And I think, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think from the Central Texas standpoint is how I want to leave it is that we'd be known as a central force in CleanTech, not just in Texas, and not just in the US, but in the world. And I think we're well on our way to doing that.
Great. And Andi?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely want to kind of echo what's been said. And I think a lot of times when people think of Texas, they think primarily of oil and gas and don't realize the, you know, the fact that Texas is a leader in clean and renewable energy globally. And so I think that's definitely an important story that needs to be told. And I think there's a lot of opportunity here in Texas as well. And part of that opportunity comes with, you know, supporting this transition and also helping to interpret this transition into other industries. And so I know that's one of EPIcenter's goals, is to help kind of support that transition.
Great. And Debbie, any closing thoughts? One more shout out for the AmericanMade Challenge.
Sure. Of course, I always like that. I just love working with the folks in Texas because there is so much innovation that's happening down there. And I really encourage you all to check out our website, of course. But there, like I said, there's 5 active prizes. So they're not all about solar either. So we have one actually for incubators, actually. So all of you incubators, please take a look at the EPIC prize right now. The EPIC prize is a brand new prize competition with $1 million on the table for incubators to win. And then there's a water prize, a geothermal prize, a hydropower prize. So there's a lot going on. So just check it out, and hopefully you'll participate with us in some way.
All right. Well, thank you so much to all the panelists. I really enjoyed this conversation and look forward to working with you all in the future. Feel free to the audience to keep sending in questions, and I'll turn things back over to Erin Hardick.
Thank you, Erin.
Thanks, Erin, and thanks, Zpryme.
Yeah, thank you all panelists. So thank you everyone who watched this panel. We are going to go into a break until 2 p.m., but I just wanted to mention 2 things. While we're on break, you can still engage with other attendees on the platform. There's 2 ways to do that. So one way is through using the workshops. You'll see the workshop tab. You can go into either of the 2 workshops that are currently available. They have topics listed. Up to 16 people can join with a video feed in those workshops, and you can discuss those predetermined topics. Those will be available until 3 p.m. So if you just want to pop in for 5 minutes and discuss that topic and then pop out, feel free to do that. You can stay in there all day and have that window open. So you can engage with other attendees via the workshops. The other way to do that, to talk to people, is by using the People tab. So at the very bottom on the left hand of the screen, you'll see People. There you can actually scroll through the whole attendee list. You can connect with someone. They will have to accept your connection, and then you can actually go ahead and directly message that attendee. So those are the two ways, via the workshops, which you can join at any time, and through direct messages, which you will have to do by connecting with someone through that People tab and sending the message. So with that, I will leave you guys to a 30-minute break and be back at 2 for actually the panel I will be moderating on batteries for bulk power. Thank you everyone for watching this panel.